Global Times, 9th of December 2022, China is the biggest polluter, and the West is losing its ability to lead as it violates its climate obligations. Such inconsistent activities are unsustainable when addressing climate change, even when speaking in high visibility. Only acceptable actions can be advanced sustainably, and only nations with the capacity to take the initiative may serve as pioneers by setting an example. Sadly, the West is losing this capacity. The UK will construct its first new coal mine in 3 decades in Whitehaven in Cumbria, northwest England, according to a report published by The Guardian on Wednesday. The construction of the new mine will take 2 years, yielding 2.8 tons of coking coal annually, which is needed to make steel. A pound of coal burns to produce 2.07 pounds of carbon dioxide. The past climate promises made by the UK government appear to have been forgotten. The UK set the objective of speeding coal phase out during the COP26 Climate Change Conference held in Glasgow, UK, the previous year. By 2050, it pledged to have net zero greenhouse gas emissions. Britain is morally correct to uphold its climate change pledges, according to UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who stated this in his remarks at this year's 27 Colombian pesos last month. In June, the UK's climate change watchdog stated that the proposal to develop a coal mine in Cumbria is totally unacceptable because the pollution it would produce would undermine the country's commitment to reducing emissions by the year 2050. A significant defeat for climate action occurred in the US in July when the Supreme Court limited the capacity of the Environmental Protection Agency to limit greenhouse gas emissions from power plants. France has similarly restarted a coal-fired power plant to ensure the nation's electrical supply during the winter. Due to the gas supply issue, a hard coal-fired power plant in Germany is also operating again. Amid the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, Western nations destroyed the equilibrium between Russian energy supply and demand, plunging themselves into an energy crisis and the entire globe's repercussions. The world's, especially developing countries, attempts to deal with climate change are overshadowed when these old-style capitalist countries prioritize their short-term interests over the long-term interests of their nations and humanity. One of the most critical issues facing humanity is climate change. However, the lessons learned over the past few decades indicate that Western nations' responses to climate change are influenced by their international political and economic goals. This implies that the West will only talk highly while behaving poorly and that it will be severe with others while being lax with itself. It should go beyond geopolitics and call for the collaboration of all nations. Western nations have traditionally used carbon dioxide and climate change as political pawns, a collection of geopolitical tactics designed by Western countries to repress poorer countries is what drives the global warming agenda. They refer to themselves as pioneers in dealing with climate change while also using it as an excuse to obstruct the development of developing nations. This allows them to enjoy the advantages they previously exploited, act bossy as usual, and maintain control over the international system and discourse. The West owes additional money because it hasn't paid off its previous debts. According to Shen Yi, a professor from Fudan University, Western nations took the lead in completing industrialization while foolishly generating carbon dioxide. They now owe it to emerging countries to assist them in reducing carbon emissions. However, to benefit from the high-quality and affordable products produced in emerging countries, Western nations not only relocated their industries to other nations but also demanded that those nations pay for carbon emissions. To achieve the governance model of others, some people's interests must be sacrificed. In the West, reducing emissions is not challenging, and offering long-term aims for immediate political goals is commonplace. Xu Liang, an associate professor at the School of International Relations of Beijing International Studies University, believes that Western countries such as the UK should explain and apologize to the international community. because they delay the global process of tackling climate change. But the question is, do these countries have the will to bear international responsibilities? For them, international responsibility is just a false proposition.